Download the My Hingham app today and report issues and get information on town government with ease. Available on the App Store and Google Play. You can submit service requests or gain information with just a few taps on your phone. Using the My Hingham app puts immediate access to town resources in the palm of your hand, including calendars of meetings and events, agendas for upcoming meetings, building permit filing options, online bill payment options, and info about our boards, committees, departments, and services. For more information, please scan the QR code on your screen.
Good evening. It is 7 p.m. on October 8th, 2024. I'd like to open this meeting of the Select Board of the Town of Hingham. This meeting is being held in person and/or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the Town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Anyone else recording this meeting? Seeing none, I will note for the record that participating this evening is Bill Ramsey, Liz Klein, and myself, Joe Fisher. If you are willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is to consider approval of the minutes from September 10th, 2024. Liz?
I'm ready to
Bill?
proceed.
I'm ready.
So am I. I will accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes dated September 10th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Minutes approved. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of the agreement with Harbor Networks, LLC, for a new townwide phone system. Michelle, you going to lead this, or Bill? Okay.
And there are a few folks from Harbor Networks on the line in case needed as well.
Great.
Yeah, if there's any additional
Okay.
questions. This agreement, this is the culmination of a little over two and a half years worth of work. Sorting out vendors, getting competitive quotes, demonstrations and whatnot. And Harbor Networks is our current service and support provider for our current phone system. And, we've been satisfied with their service and support over the years, and, we have no problems staying with them. They also happen to be the lowest bid when comparatively to the other products as well, so that's a added bonus there. And this will be a cloud-hosted voice system, complete with all modern amenities, E911 capabilities, and such. Give us a lot more capabilities, a lot of functionality that we're lacking in the current phone system.
Can you just briefly
Certainly.
go over the functionality you're talking about? What
Sure.
are the bells and whistles that make this?
Yeah, the
Make
big
this great.
thing, one of the biggest thing is being cloud-hosted. It is accessible from anywhere. So if we have a snow day and need to work from home, we can actually make and receive phone calls live from home. I know this really affects like Public Works on the snow days. They're trying to field calls live from the public about road conditions and whatnot, and somebody has to leave a message, they have to check the voicemail, receive the message, call from their personal cell phone. With this service, there's an app you load on your phone or the web portal that you're logged into on your computer, and you can make and receive phone calls as if you're at your desk. so that, preserves the privacy of their personal phone numbers when they're calling back the public. So also help out over in the police department as well with officers following up or detectives following up on complaints, making phone calls where they're out on patrol or whatever from their cell phone. They can preserve the privacy of their cell phone number, and it comes across as Hingham Police. So somebody might pick it up and not think it's a spammer or something.
So I take it if I'm working at home, I can basically have someone calls me at the office here, it will pick up like on my cell phone at home, which goes to the question about the reliability of cell service in town.
Well, fortunately, it uses the Wi-Fi too. If you're home with your Wi-Fi, it would use either cell or Wi-Fi signal as well. So, whatever you've got for internet access, it'll utilize that signal,
Great.
which is usually more reliable than cell service in some areas.
That's where I'm going, yes.
Sounds more reliable.
Liz, any questions?
Thank you, Bill, for being here. So it sounds like a significant upgrade from the current system, and I know you've been working hard on this, so thank you. How many other bids were there? Just out of curiosity, do you know?
We wound up with final four.
Okay.
We had 6 total over the 2.5 years I've been working on this.
Okay.
But we wound up settling on the final 4, all capable products, all reputable firms. Some we had experience with, some we didn't, and, just went through comparing them all and came down to the Harbor Network.
Okay, great.
This was procured through a state contract, so you can kind of pick who you'd like to work with, but Bill set up demonstrations with all 4 of the vendors and had different staff people come in to kind of see the capabilities and what they could offer.
Great, okay. And the 3-year term, is that typical
Yeah.
for this sort of, okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Have we worked with Harbor Networks before?
Pardon me?
Have we worked with Harbor
Yes,
Networks?
they're a
before?
current provider for
Okay.
our current, manage our ShoreTel system. They've been responsive over the years. They actually installed the ShoreTel system. They've been responsive. I've also checked with Joe Andrews over in the schools. He's happy with their support. So we saw no reason to leave them,
Great.
for that reason.
Great.
Anything else?
Nope.
So are we purchasing or leasing the phones?
Purchasing the phones, paying for the service, a monthly service, because it's a cloud hosted. We're purchasing the phones. We're hoping to purchase fewer phones than we have now. Certainly there will be people adopting a soft phone, a virtual phone, such as myself, either Michelle's saying me too, so, where you can use your computer or the app on your cell phone in place of a standard phone handset.
So part of the price is purchase, part of the price is the cloud service.
Right. Porting all of our phone numbers
Okay,
over.
so you've got the
All the
transition.
configuration,
Okay.
everything that goes with that.
And what about, apart from the cloud service, is there a monthly maintenance fee, as software gets updated, things like that?
That's all embedded in the cloud service fee.
Okay,
So all those updates happen in the cloud, And the benefit, one of the other benefits of the clouds is the system is hosted in redundant data
Sure.
centers across the country, so a storm in one region of the country doesn't affect the other, so the phone system will be up, up to 17 nines of availability at
Right.
24/7. Whereas, our system is in the room here. Currently, if we have an issue with that, then none of the phones work.
Right.
So it kind of gives us good resiliency and redundancy with the system, so it's an always-up service.
what is the transition like if at the end of the term we want to transition to another service provider? We don't want to lose the
Right.
record of calls, the phone numbers, things like that, so is that something that?
It's all transition that we can work out if we needed to. Hopefully, we don't.
Right.
But certainly, should something arise, we can easily transition to another provider as well.
Okay, great.
I just have one other question, sorry. And this is part of the FY '25 budget,
This is a capital project.
capital project, okay. But we
We have funds.
We have
for
for funding.
installation
Yep.
in the first year, and then we'll have to build it into the operating budget after that.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Any member of the public? Questions? Seeing none, I am prepared to take a motion on this.
I will make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Harbor Networks LLC for a new townwide phone system in an amount not to exceed $609,900 over a 3-year term.
Second.
Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Bill, thank you.
you.
This was great.
Stay.
Next item on our agenda is to consider approval of the agreement with Comtract Corp. For fiber optic cable services for the new public safety building. Bill, you want to speak on this one as well?
Sure, this is, obviously, we're building a new public safety facility. We need to connect it into our current infrastructure, our current fiber network. And that's what this contract is with Comtract, who did install in our current fiber system. They have all the fiber mapping and everything. So when we did install the system 2 years ago, there was some provisions and some splice points to allow for future splicing in of the public safety facility. So that helps, but we still need to buy the fiber. They need to physically run it. And this will get them connected into our fiber network, with the new facility.
So is this within the budget of the public safety building?
It is, and it was approved by the Public Safety Building Committee. Paul Callis is here if you have questions for him as well.
Well, Paul, is there anything that you wanted to add?
I just wanted to report that that this is within the budget, and we've got money allocated for this expense, and that this is something that's long been planned for this building. So the building committee had approved it at their last meeting. So I'm not sure if I got anything else to add to that.
Liz, any?
I was just going to ask about the timeline, the April 30th date.
Yeah, the facility will be ready just after the first of the year for the fiber install. So this will get in the contract signed, will allow Comtract to go procure the fiber and get it into the work schedule so that they can hit the ground running when the facility's ready for them to pull it in.
Okay, great. So we're hoping it'll happen.
It'll happen before the
January.
building's open.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see how the building will open unless this happens.
Right, but we don't want this to delay it,
Right.
right, Paul?
That's correct.
I think on the positive, it will be done.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
No question, as Paul noted, it's within budget and it's an anticipated cost, so I'm fine with it.
This is sort of at the low end of general concerns here, but I just want to make sure, from a cybersecurity standpoint, what are the risks of breach with respect to the fiber optic network?
Well, it's the beauty of the fiber. It's really hard to,
Yep.
it's not like a copper cable where you can listen in and tone it out. So fiber keeps it all secure without physically splicing in, which we would notice if that were to happen. So that helps keep everything tight and secure.
Yep. I have no other questions. Any member of the public, comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm prepared to accept a motion.
I make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Comtract Corp. For fiber optic cable services for the new public safety facility in an amount not to exceed $54,898.52.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That is approved.
Thank you.
Everything for me?
I think that's it. Unless you want to talk about the brat. But we'll-
I
Okay.
don't know about that, so I'll let somebody else speak to that.
So we will move to the next item, to consider approval of the agreement with Firematic Supply Company, Inc. for a brush rapid attack truck, also known as a BRAT, for the fire department. There is Steve Murphy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me tonight.
Good. So if you could walk us through this, please.
Sure. So the agreement in front of you is, as you said, it's called a BRAT. It's basically a custom-built brush truck. So this is something that we would predominantly use for areas like Wampatuck, Bear Cove Park, anything else, especially some of the, access roads are a little limited, and we are unable to get the larger fire engines into those, that area down fire lanes and everything else. So this is something that historically we have kind of made our own brush trucks by buying pickup trucks and then end up modifying them But in this situation, this is a custom-made truck. It's a little bit heavier duty than what we previously purchased. It's also something that, has a little bit better ground clearance, and, we think that it will work very well in the areas that we have to access. Hopefully, we don't need to access it that much, because, that's usually not a great thing, but, it's available if we need to. I can also comment that many other communities around us have been going with this type of vehicle from the same manufacturer for several years now, and they've had great success. So we're looking forward to it. So, yeah, there's a picture, I believe, that's the Rockland vehicle. Ours will look very similar to that. This was done before they had town lettering and everything else added to the side. But as you can see, it is a little bit heavier duty than what we currently have, a regular pickup truck. It also comes already piped with the water pump on the back. There's a water tank and other equipment that goes on it. One of the issues that we have with our current vehicle, which is actually a 2011, is the current vehicle doesn't have the springs or isn't really designed to carry the water in it. So when it's just parked in the station, we have to drain it. And then if something happens, we get a call for a brush fire in Wampatuck or any other area, then we actually have to fill it up beforehand. So this truck is heavier duty and will allow us to maintain it in a ready position.
So the vehicle we currently have, will that be disposed of?
We haven't determined that yet. We're looking at probably about a 1-year delivery time on this. So we figure that will give us a little bit of time to figure out what we're going to do with the older vehicle. There's a pretty good chance that if we do decide to, that the fire department doesn't need it anymore, then I have a strong feeling that some other department within the town might be jumping at the chance.
So,
But we'll cross that road when we get to it. So
the price of the Brat is a little north of $250,000.
correct.
Is that consistent with what you would see in a competitive market?
It is, and we actually, I think originally the quote that we got included a few other things that we looked at, and trying to keep the price down kind of said, well, we don't really need some of these other options that some of our other communities around here have gone with. But yeah, this is a standard type of brush truck, and there's a few competitors that are out there that make similar products, and they're all in the same price range.
And what's the expected useful life?
That's a great question. Honestly, I could see at least probably 20 years, because this is not a truck that's going to get used on a regular basis, so it will eventually have low mileage. It just, as long as the components of it hold up, the frame and everything else, then I can't see any reason that this wouldn't be at least 20 years. So.
And do we purchase a maintenance agreement for this, or is it just part of the general fleet maintenance?
A little bit of both. There are some components of it that are obviously covered under manufacturer's warranties, but beyond that, then we would be doing the maintenance in-house. So, or sending them back to the manufacturer if it's something that goes a little bit beyond our capabilities. So.
Great, thank you. Bill?
Yeah, thanks, Chief, appreciate it. So does it carry 4 firefighters to include the driver, is that right?
It can. That's where you see that it has the extended cab. So it is designed that it can get, up to 4 or 5 if you put a third firefighter in the back seat into some of these areas, that especially remote areas. Sections of World's End are very difficult even for 4-wheel drive vehicles to get in there. So this will be a little bit beefier.
And given the fact that it is 4-wheel drive equipped and can go into remote areas, can this transport injured people out from an area?
Not really. It could transport as a passenger, but we don't really have the ability to actually transport a patient lying in a supine position or anything else. So they could assist someone, but no, this isn't really designed as a transport vehicle.
Okay, and where's it going to be, at Central Fire Station?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Liz?
Thank you, Chief. Certainly seems like something we need, given our geography. Just wondering about the budget.
Yep.
Where is this
So-
coming out of?
So this is approved for FY '25 budget for $275,000. So there is some additional room in the budget to purchase the radio that will go into it, and some additional hand tools and stuff that we don't already have that we would add onto the truck. So this is within budget.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just the capital outlay budget?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Nothing else, thank you.
Any questions from members of the public? Seeing none,
I think we have a hand.
oh, we do?
Nope.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Good evening.
oh, John, yes, please.
John Borger, 53 Lafayette Avenue. Chief, I have to ask, are any of these kinds of vehicles yet available as hybrids or electric vehicles, or is that still way in the future?
I think it's a little bit ways in the future. One of the things to consider too, and I don't know if you followed some of the media reports coming out of Florida, but electric and hybrid vehicles don't necessarily work well with salt water. So that would be a concern if we're taking into areas of World's End or even Bear Cove Park. Hopefully we don't have any flooding that would impact that, but sometimes there might be some puddles that we might be driving through. So no, I think we're a little further away from seeing these type of vehicles in an electric or a hybrid.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anyone else? Now I see none, so I'm prepared to accept the motion.
I will make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Firematics Supply Company Incorporated for a brush rapid attack truck, BRAT, for the fire department in an amount not to exceed $263,000.
Second.
Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. That Brad is approved.
Thank you.
Basically,
Chief.
we're talking about a lead time of about a year.
About a year, yeah. It might be a little bit under. I've heard anywhere from 9 months to a year. So,
Okay, great.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a discussion of the opt-in specialized energy code. And, yes, sir.
Brad is in the building on his way here.
So
Do you want to,
Do you want to?
we
do you want
can,
to take 8?
yeah, we can move on and then come back to this. So then we will temporarily move on to the next item and then come back to this. Next item is to consider appointment of the treasurer collector as the custodian of certain, as a custodian of disposition for certain tax title properties. We have Emily Wentworth with us. So, Emily, I know you've prepared something, but if you can summarize why we need this and what it will do.
Sure. So the town acquired through a tax title process 3 properties on Andrew Isle back in the mid-1990s. In the past, the town has opted to create a warrant article, go to town meeting, and then dispose of tax title properties through an RFP process. There's actually a much more expedient process available, where pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 77B, the Select Board can appoint a custodian. We've suggested, as you noted in the agenda item, that you appoint the treasurer collector to instead hold an auction. We right now, if assuming you go forward with that item, should be able to dispose of these properties or hold the auction at least by the end of the month. The benefit to that is that the law will be changing on November 1st, and it will, even under this provision, take much longer to dispose of properties that we own through tax title and get them back on our tax rolls.
And so my understanding is that right now, actually, the select board is the custodian, and we will be transferring that to the treasurer collector so they could proceed.
Yep.
And what's before us really is that transfer process, and then it would be up to the treasurer collector to make the arrangements to actually hold the auctions and to make sure that it was done in accordance with the law.
Correct.
Great. Tom, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, we've been through the process. We've spoken with the attorney that's walking us through this, this work. We have an auctioneer set up as required by law, and we're ready to roll. We'll have a package put together for Friday, and 2 weeks' notice, and we'll be able to do the auction on the 29th is our anticipated schedule.
Great. Liz, any questions?
So just a question about the process. Thank you, Emily, for presenting that. The 2 weeks, is that when residents and abutters are notified, or?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a 14-day requirement.
Okay. So if there was an issue, would it come back to us, or what happens during that?
If there was an issue with what?
If a resident or an abutter had an issue with what we're proposing?
I think the answer is no, it does not come back to us. This would be a transfer of the authority.
Okay.
And it would be up to the treasurer collector to make sure the appropriate processes were followed.
Followed, okay.
Yeah, and if and I'll make sure that it's
Yeah.
followed as well. And that she will be the custodian for sure. But we're all working together on that to make sure that nothing gets slipped. Like I said, we have a designated attorney who does this kind of work on a regular basis as our go-to expert on the field. So they'll be helping us as well.
Okay. And do you have any concerns with this, Emily?
No, I mean, I will say, although we're doing it in a slightly different way than we have in the past, we did go through our typical internal review process to make sure there was no identified public use for these properties. So that's been complete, and to the extent that there may be some interest actually on the part of abutters or others to acquire these properties, it seems to make sense to get them back out there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Bill?
The only question I've got is, when we sold the property on Rockwood through auction, did we follow the same procedure?
No, we went to town meeting.
Yeah.
Asking, to have the select board authorized, not required, to dispose of that property. And then we issued an RFP to solicit interest. You got one response, and then this board made the decision as to how to sell it. So
Okay.
it was just a longer process.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And my understanding is that dollar amounts associated with these parcels is not a material dollar amount.
This will be a competitive process,
Sure.
so that is possible, but what we took them for was relatively modest. Our hope would be to recoup at least that, and any expenses associated with the disposition itself.
Got it. And do you know where notice is going to be posted?
I do not, but we can follow up with you. We'll check with John Finneran.
Okay, great.
We'll let you all know where the notices have been posted, so you're aware.
Okay.
And that'll happen Friday? Is that
It'll
what-
happen by Friday.
By
It might
Friday.
happen tomorrow. We've got to look at it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any member of the public? Comments or questions? Seeing none, I am prepared to accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that the Select Board for the Town of Hingham does hereby vote to appoint the Town of Hingham Treasurer Collector as custodian to have the care, custody, management, and control of the following described parcels of real property acquired by foreclosure of tax title, and to sell said parcels at public auction in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77B. 1 Andrews Isle, Hingham, Mass., Assessor Map 73, Lot 54. 3 Andrews Isle, Hingham, Mass., Assessor Map 62, Lot 59. 9 Andrews Isle, Hingham, Mass., Assessor Map 62, Lot 72.
Second.
Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Emily, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Seeing you.
At this point, I am prepared to move back to a discussion of the opt-in specialized energy code. And Brad, yes, please join us. And if you have other members of your group who'd like to speak at some point, we'll certainly identify them and
Perfect.
they'll have a
Thank you.
chance. So,
Can I just jump in?
Oh, and
Is it
Pat, yeah.
possible that you guys posted? Is that right?
We did post.
They might want to call to order.
yes.
So it was a prophylactic posting. We don't anticipate it, but everyone's welcome. So call to order of both the Climate Action Commission as well as the Energy Action Committee.
And so you will incorporate by reference the public notice that I read at the beginning of our meeting.
Correct.
Great.
Correct. I think I know it by heart. If you want me to recite it.
We certainly don't. So please, go ahead.
Okay, first, thank you for willing to skip forward and then come back. Apparently, there's a bus that ran off at Central and Main, so traffic is all routed around, so sorry. I would have been here on time, so thank you for accommodating. So both the Climate Action Commission and the Energy Action Committee voted earlier, or late summer, early fall, to consider putting the specialized opt-in code before town meeting in 2025. And so we're here to present, to get the select boards, kind of apprise you of what that is, our interest, and get initial feedback. So there's no ask at this time. We'd like to come back to you, other than your guidance is essentially what we're here for. So if we go to the next slide, the recommendation is that we adopt the municipal opt-in specialized building code at town meeting 2025, and we want to seek your input on how we move that recommendation forward. So what is it? The specialized code is a building code put forward by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, and they've identified it as key for achieving their own goal, the Commonwealth's goal, of net zero by 2050. The specialized code looks to accomplish this by, one, closing a current gap in the code. So there's, in the appendix materials, there's a reference to kind of this pyramid structure, how we look at the codes currently. There's the base code that applies to all municipalities in the Commonwealth. There is the stretch code, which this community opted into in 2018 by town meeting vote as part of our Joining the Green Communities program. And now on top of that pyramid is the specialized code. And when I say it closes a gap, that gap addresses new construction. So both the base code and the stretch code apply to, of course, any home that's going to be constructed has to comply with the code. But from tackling a goal of net zero by 2050, the specialized code specifically targets new construction. And it does that in two ways. It wants energy efficiency. That's always a goal in any area here. You know, how can we increase the efficiency of homes? But then it also wants efficient electrification. So what do I mean by that? If we're going to move to a fossil-free future, we target that through electrification. And then we rely on the electricity providers to source a renewable greenhouse gas-free portfolio of energy. We're blessed in this town. HMLP is well ahead of the curve with the rest of the Commonwealth. We're not, of course, at 100% carbon-free energy yet, but HMLP is moving towards that. So already, if we're electrified in Hingham, we're doing better than most places in the Commonwealth and elsewhere in the country for that regard. Now, what the stretch code doesn't do, the specialized code doesn't do, is mandate a fossil-free home. So when it talks about efficient electrification, it provides a choice. You can still build with a fossil fuel-based system if that's your preference, but you must pre-wire in anticipation of an electrification future. This is, in some respects, a consumer protection mechanism. Far cheaper to wire the house when you're building it than try to retrofit it later. So if the Commonwealth is going to achieve a goal of net zero by 2050, eventually you're going to move to an electrification model. And if you're building new homes that are already ready for it, you have that choice and you can switch over far cheaper later than if you're trying to retrofit after the fact. The only thing, I shouldn't say the only thing, but if you're going to include a fossil-based system in your home, another means of offsetting it that the specialized code will target is solar generation. So it looks to have a solar array capable of offsetting that fossil fuel use. So as you can see on the slide, the key components can be summarized as, again, just new construction with electrification, wiring for that, and a solar array on top.
There is, if you're building a multifamily home over 12,000 square feet, there is a passive house requirement. We have information on what that is in the appendix and the materials. No need to go into the details here. All it is a standard that's almost on steroids, so to speak, as to how do you build an energy-efficient home and reduce the carbon load. And that would be for, again, homes over 12,000 square feet. So why are we recommending this? I think you already got a little bit of a flavor of that. But I'll first note that it is a recommendation with their own climate action plan. So as the Commission and the Energy Action Committee, our charge is in part to, well, the Commission's charge, of course, is to help enact that plan. And the Energy Action Committee is also in favor of that. And the specialized code is simply one of the recommendations. But why is it a recommendation? Because, as we noted already, the Commonwealth is targeting 2050 for net zero. Our own plan targets 2040, and this helps close that gap. Buildings account for nearly 70% of the carbon produced in this town. That is because of the heating load. And then, in some cases, depending on the air conditioning unit, could be that as well, but principally it's heating. While the specialized code targets new construction, so on its own won't reduce that, it will certainly prevent adding to it. As you can drive down almost any street, you're going to see construction going around in this town. We know new homes are being built, and those homes tend to be quite sizable. So if you add a fossil fuel-based system to that, that nearly 70% profile would probably increase. So we need to target a reduction in that area, but also not increase it, and a specialized code will help us to accomplish that. And then the last point I'll note is that the adoption of the specialized code is a necessary step in the Commonwealth's new Climate Leaders Community Program, or Climate Leaders. As I noted at the outset, we originally adopted the stretch code when we joined the Mass DOER's Green Communities Program back in 2018. That has been extremely beneficial for us. We've received nearly $300,000 in grants through that program. Climate Leaders is the next stage, the next evolution in that program. It is so new yet that they don't have, like in Green Communities, dedicated amounts of fundings targeted, but we know that's coming. We're not bringing to you today, and we're not advocating for Hingham joining Climate Leaders. Frankly, we need to do more work in that regard, but we know that the specialized code is but one further step, and we actually map quite well to the other requirements of the Climate Leaders program already. You'll see in the last slide of the appendix the mapping of the Green Communities program to the Climate Leaders program, and with the specialized code adopted, we'll match nicely to 3 of the 5 criteria already. And one of the other criteria, which is a decarbonization roadmap, actually dovetails nicely with a capital plan for equipment replacement, which I know has been a goal of Hingham for some time. And there is actually funding available to help assist with that, which both the CAC and the EAC are looking into. We already hope to bring, as part of considering that program in the future, grant opportunities. But again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in that regard. So what's next? So like I mentioned, we're here to get your feedback. We want your opinion. We understand that any change in this town, especially of this magnitude, ideas must be socialized. We must vet and understand all of its components. To that end, we've done work already. We've met with Bill Ramsey earlier, the representative of the Select Board for the CAC. We've constant dialogue with town administration. Patricia Burke as well, who's been a wonderful addition. Thank you for bringing her on board. We're very pleased to be working with her. She's been fantastic. We've also met with the building department, got Mike Clancy's views on this. The composition of the CAC includes 5 town committees, 6, but the HDIC is not quite yet incorporated. So we socialize with those committees as well, also work with our AdCom representative, Brenda Black. And we've got multiple citizens groups that we work through as well. But there's always more to be done. So we're looking for your recommendations on who else we should target, concerns that you may have that we can address. And then our goal would be to return to this body in about mid-November. We would give a full presentation on what the specialized code is, also feedback on following your recommendations and requests, and any concerns you have or the community identified, we would be able to address. We would look to have Lisa Sullivan, who's the Southeast Regional Coordinator of Mass DOER, and Hingham is in her portfolio. She would come back with her code specialist to help address those questions and give the presentation. And if the action seems favorable, that we would move forward, we would also be prepared to provide a draft warrant article for consideration that we would take in 2025. So with that, I think I'll stop talking and ask if there are any questions.
So, Brad, thank you. This was an incredible presentation. But before opening to questions, are there any other members of your group who would like to address this board?
Certainly, we'll open it to the floor. If anyone either in Zoom or in the room wishes to add anything, correct anything I may have misstated, or...
And this will not be your only opportunity, but I just want to make sure that if there's something you did want to say, it'd be great. Go to the podium, just give us your name and address, please.
Elliott Place, 91 Kimball Beach Road, Hingham. And I'm a member of the Hingham Climate Action Commission and Hingham Net Zero as well. Brad basically covered everything very importantly. I just would add the urgency of our present climate state. It's basically an emergency, and we see it everywhere in the world, and we are well aware, we've been working very hard at this to create a climate action plan, and this specialized code is part of that, a recommended consideration of it. We also, as Brad noted, realize that this is not sufficient. There are many other steps that we're going to need to take to really move significantly towards net zero by 2040. And so in that sense, this is a necessary step, but not sufficient. And we need to build on this. You know, another step that we foresee, and Brad said we're not pushing it right now, is to be a climate leader community. And there are 46 towns and cities in Massachusetts that have already adopted the specialized code. This is a significant number. I know that I've heard quoted Tom saying, I do not want to be first in adopting a new program. I want to be 40th. Well, we're behind the ball. And it's time for us to pick up the ball and run with it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Brad Carr.
Just go up so that the people watching on video can see you. That's great.
I'm also Brad Carr, number 2 Tupelo Drive. On the Energy Action Committee. It looks like we just have a quorum. I just want to say that on behalf of the EAC, we're very excited about this. It is, as Brad and Elliot just mentioned, one of the 5 things we would need to do to become a climate leader. We just feel like there's funding available there. It gets to a capital plan through this energy decarbonization roadmap for all of the buildings. We think it's a really great thing to do and very excited about it.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please, if you can just come up to the podium.
Hi, Lori Freeman, 350 Beale Street. Brand new CAC member, very excited about that. Just real quick, just want to say I feel like this specialized code is like a toolkit for the community, our community and the residents here to assist us with transitioning to clean energy. So we want to use that toolkit. It should be super useful. I say it's like the lowest hanging fruit possible. It's just targeting new construction, so we're not adding dirty climate warming machines and infrastructure to the town. So, and not locking in new climate warming, sea level rising emissions. That's it. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Bill, I'm going to start with you. This is your group.
Yeah, sure. So really enjoyed meeting with Brad previously, and Patty, thank you for all your help as well. Obviously, I'm thrilled with this. I think it's a great path forward. I like the approach of the committee. I think it's good to target new construction as a start to moving forward. 12,000 square foot house is a large house. So I think that's totally appropriate. Is it all commercial buildings or any commercial building, right? There's no square footage on the commercial building.
So this is residential as well as commercial. So the residential limit would be the 12,000 because that's multifamily housing. So
Yep.
we were talking about housing in that regard. So the 12,000 would be the special passive house requirements. Shy of 12,000, you're in the regular specialized code, which is the solar array offset and the wiring in advance for electro.
Great, excellent. And as someone who recently redid my residence, it's not 12,000 square feet unfortunately, but I did electrify as very much as possible, and everything's working great. Works great. I feel great about it, and you know the rebates from the heat pumps and other items were basically pay for itself. So it's wonderful move in this direction, and I'm very much an advocate for it.
Great. Liz?
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brad, for being here and all of the work that has gone into this already, and the thoughtful presentation. I wanted to just go back to the 46 towns that have already adopted. Are there some of our neighboring towns or towns we consider benchmarks? Could you just comment on who?
Yes, we often speak amongst each other. Hingham is seen as a leader. In fact, I'll be talking to the Cohasset Alternative Energy Committee on Thursday night to talk about our experience, and Hull also often reaches out. We tend to be in contact with Norwell and Situate as well. So those towns have not, but they are actively considering.
Okay, great. It would be nice to see it as a regional movement. So, and I appreciate you working with the other town committees and certainly Mike Clancy in the building department. Have you met with HMLP and the Light Board?
So they are both representatives on the Climate Action Commission as well as the Energy Action Committee.
Okay.
So we're in active discussion constantly.
Okay, excellent. Just want to make sure they're in the loop. Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
I just want to follow up on a couple of questions and first congratulate you and your group really for advancing this. It's easy for inertia to set in and to do nothing. And so it takes action to do something, and to really appreciate that. Just to follow up on Bill's question, so I'm clear, this applies to commercial construction as well as residential, is that?
That's correct.
Correct. Because one of the revenue-seeking opportunities that this town has been exploring is commercial development in South Hingham. To what extent would you anticipate that if we went in this direction, it would increase costs of construction associated with commercial buildings?
That is a great question. And I'm not able to give you percentages or numbers or so forth. The one way to think about it is, or I should say the struggle in this area is always short-term costs versus long-term costs. So If you're going to go to a completely electrified model at the outset, then the cost for ensuring the electricity supply and the wiring accommodates that. There's definitely a cost to that, but you save on all of the fossil fuel systems that you need to bring in. So depending on the size, the equipment, and so forth, you could net out, you could do better, or you could be slightly more, but it kind of would net itself out. If you're going to run both in tandem, then there is an additional cost on top of that. And you have to look at the long-term savings of, okay, my increased energy efficiency, my building envelope, the extra costs I put in there, what are they going to save me in energy down the road? So it's a great question. I can come back to you. I imagine that the code specialist for DOER will have representative models. In fact, we've asked for those, so we could probably bring you a more detailed presentation then.
This, I suspect would be an important question that will come up in our efforts to enhance the commercial real estate base in town and to keep people's tax rates down. There will be concern about discouraging commercial activity. So to the extent that the town is in a position to say this is a positive and here are offsetting cost opportunities, subsidies, that would be helpful to have in our toolkit as we're dealing with project developers. That would be great. Let me ask you about concrete. What I've read, and I don't know if this is accurate, is that compared to almost everything else, concrete is the one thing that's really adding to carbon emissions. It's the construction, and if we had structures without concrete, apparently the problem is significantly diminished. Are we addressing that at all in this? And I don't see we're addressing it here, but is that any part of the long-term goal here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's a fact concrete definitely does, the development of concrete does contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. So we debated this when we were developing the climate action plan as to how much do you include embedded carbon in your estimates. And that phrase is very much in reference to building materials used. So for example, we are building a new foster school. And when you think about it purely in terms of carbon generation, which is better, to remodel an existing facility or to tear it down and build new? And from a carbon standpoint, bringing in all that new concrete, all that new material that had to be produced in order to do that leads to carbon development. The challenge with the town in being able to reduce embedded carbon is how do you measure it, how do you account for it, particularly in a historic town where you're preserving a lot of the footprint, where we're also then developing for new commercial outputs, as you mentioned, Joe. And quite honestly, we didn't feel we were able to measure it adequately to target it as a reduction item. So the plan doesn't address it, but it recognizes the challenge.
Okay. I've heard discussion that there's 46 communities so far that have accepted this. Are there any that have considered it and rejected it?
That's a great question. I do not know the answer to that. I will have to look into that for you.
I don't want to join that list if it exists, but I'd like to anticipate the issues that arose there so we can look at it ahead of time.
Yep.
That's great. I've got no other questions.
I
Yes?
could add one thing to that.
You just go to the podium, please.
Elliott Place, 91 Kimball Beach Road. At any time, the town can also choose to opt out.
Got it.
Isn't that right, Brad?
That's correct. Maybe a little bit more background on this. When we look at the stretch code, which the town adopted, once you adopt a code, you also adopt all future versions of that as the Mass DOER updates the codes. They do that all the time. The stretch code had a retrofit provision, or I'm sorry, a renovation provision that if you were over 1,000 square feet in renovation, the entire building structure, not just the renovated portion, needed to comply with the stretch code. Right. And that caused some consternation because that led to unplanned mention this to say that while once you have the code in place, the only way to remove it is to have another town meeting to drop it and revert to another version. But Masso DOER is actively listening and has proven themselves to be accommodating as well. They don't move at lightning speed, so if there's some discomfort, you'll live with it for a little while. But that doesn't mean that you have no options.
Right, so this is a code, in many ways, it's a living code. It grows and adapts based upon standards as they evolve.
That's correct. And that's also true of the base code and the stretch code as well. They are not the same building codes they were 20 years ago. They always evolve.
So I think the opinions of Mike Clancy will be very important to this group, and I expect that we will be hearing from either at a meeting or just some of us may meet with him individually. But his experience, I think, will be very important as we consider this. So I appreciate that you've already spoken to him, and we will do so as well.
Excellent.
Great.
Can I ask one follow-up
Please.
question? I had this in my notes, but I didn't ask you. Where did the 12,000 square foot number come from? I mean, a 10,000 square foot home is relatively large, 9,000 relatively large. What is the model code land at 12,000?
It's a good question. I don't know precisely. I don't know the answer to that, why 12 as opposed to 11 or
Okay.
10 or so forth. I guess if you look at it, from a multifamily housing standpoint, how many units are you going to put in to still consider it a multifamily as opposed to more of like an apartment complex or something like that? I'm guessing that they looked at 12,000 and broke it out into different components and said, you could probably get 4 to 6 families in that home, in that type of structure. But like I said, I'm guessing, so I can look into that for you.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Can I just ask a clarifying, just to follow on to that? So is it single-family homes over 4,000 square feet? Would,
For the full solar array offset,
okay.
correct.
And then the 12,000 refers to the multifamily?
That's correct, and those are the passive house restrictions.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else, if we have members of the public online?
Joe, if I could
Yes,
just jump in.
please.
So I will work over the next, like you said, a couple of weeks here as we ramp up to a November presentation for your consideration. Brad and my office will work closely. We'll work with Patricia to help get a lot of this work done. I think we need to look closely at the towns, talk to a few of them. Specifically the comp towns, although that's not the purpose of that, but it's something we commonly do. I think maybe meeting with a doer rep isn't a bad idea at some point. We can kind of get a lot of answers to Joe's questions and others as we go. Obviously, talking to Mike and his whole team, maybe try to get some sense from the real estate community as well. We have people that we can talk to on a regular basis, try to give everybody a full understanding and a full picture. But my team will work with Brad and his group in advance of that meeting. If you all have feedback and things you want us to consider, just bring it on, and we'll add it to the list.
I think it's important to loop in our business leaders and
That's right.
developers to Joe's earlier
Yep.
point.
Great.
So Brad, are you anticipating any public hearings of your groups where you'll be soliciting further input?
Absolutely. So we plan to have public hearings both before the warrant article would go in, and then, of course, assuming that we do put it forward, we would have those afterwards to educate the community what's
Great.
Great.
Thank you. So, I have to tell you that this is incredibly impressive, not only because of the substance, but of the dedication that this shows, that each one of you who've participated. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, and thank you for the support, and town administration, Tom, Art, Michelle, and again, of course, Patricia, have been great to work with for a very long time, so we're blessed to have a great network here, so thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks for all your work.
Thank you for being
and
here.
Welcome, we're glad you're here.
Thanks, Patricia. Thank
This is
you.
important work.
How's it going, Matt?
Okay, we are going to continue our meeting, so you can, if you want to have if you want to have private conversations, please move them outside, otherwise we're going to, we'll continue.
You might get appointed to something else.
That's right. You better be careful, because Liz is exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is to consider appointments, and I do not believe we have any scheduled for this evening. Liz? Bill?
No, I have none.
I have none.
So with that, I will move to public comment on items not on the agenda. And is anyone here looking to make a public comment? Not seeing that. So then I'll move on to Town Administrator Select Board reports. I believe I see Art Robert on screen. Art, did you have anything for this evening? Oh, you are here. Oh, my God.
I am here.
Have you been?
Yes.
Second after the block.
Oh, my God, okay. Bill, you're blocking him out. Okay.
I just have a brief update and maybe a sales pitch for the Economic Development Strategic Plan. I just wanted to note that last Tuesday morning, we had a very successful business feedback session. We had 20 Hingham business and business leaders and property owners in a room with our consulting team, Camoin Associates. We had an opportunity to really walk through the issues and the opportunities that they're seeing here in Hingham. And it didn't happen in a vacuum. We had great support through a partnership with Discover Hingham, the Downtown Association, as well as the South Shore Chamber in terms of getting the word out to the event and getting people into the room. And also great support from the Hingham Historical Society, who offered their ballroom, which provided a great venue for what turned out to be a great morning. And I just wanted to say thank you, Bill, for joining briefly, to thank folks as well as you, Toms. I think everybody in that room got a sense of the seriousness of our intent and the passion that we're carrying forward in this work. And my brief sales pitch, just following up on our last meeting, an important opportunity for the community to engage in this process will be a project open house set for Monday, the 28th of October. Drop by anytime between 7 and 8:30 p.m. to learn more about the project, but more importantly, provide feedback to staff as well as our consulting team regarding issues of development and preserving the town's character. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Art. Michelle?
Sure. As the board knows, Plymouth County made over $4 million in ARPA funds available to the town of Hingham. Excuse me. And they had a deadline of September 30th to apply for those. They actually shifted it to October. But we have submitted applications for every single dollar of that money, and it's supporting a lot of good work in town, including the economic development plan that Art has mentioned and the regional water study. He's spearheading the public safety facility, a huge sewer project, stormwater studies, et cetera. So hopefully there'll be some large check presentations in your future.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayo?
Very quickly, I just did a tour this morning of the public safety facility, which is coming along very nicely. There are walls up. It looks like a building inside and outside now that you all see the brick facade coming on as you drive by it. The garage is completed inside and out. They're actually even doing site work now. So the building is really coming along great. Very, very happy with progress.
Were there any licenses you issued, any permits?
No, not this last week, I don't think.
Liz?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
No.
Bill?
Just briefly, I did attend the Economic Development Forum last Tuesday. Appreciate all of Art's hard work on that. It was well attended. I was there briefly, but when I was there, the discussion was excellent. Last Friday night, I attended the Hingham High School football game with my family, and it was just a wonderful event. And I know that homecoming is coming up at the high school this weekend with events, I believe, on Thursday and then Saturday.
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, right, Sunday. And I would encourage people to go and support our high school athletes, and A lot is scheduled, a lot of different teams and organizations there, and it's just a great weekend in the town. So get out, enjoy our community, and cheer on our high school athletes.
Absolutely. I do have a couple announcements. Tomorrow evening at Wahlburgers from 4 to 8, the police department has their breast cancer fundraiser that's going on. And if you mention that you're there for the fundraiser, 20% of all the sales that all your purchases at Wahlburgers will be donated to Dana-Farber. And the police will have their pink police cruisers there, and they'll have some T-shirts and pink patches for sale there. So you're encouraged to stop by. Again, that's from 4 to 8 p.m. tomorrow. This coming weekend, Friday evening and Saturday, is the Jewish Day of Atonement. It's Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the Jewish year. And so that's Friday, October 11th, and Saturday, October 12th. And then this coming Monday, October 14th, is both Indigenous Peoples' Day and Columbus Day as a legal state holiday here in Massachusetts. I do want to make a comment on two sad events in October in our history. The first event happened 41 years ago in Beirut, Lebanon, on October 23rd, 1983, when a dump truck packed with explosives driven by Hezbollah terrorists crashed into the barracks of the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, killing 241 U.S. military personnel, including 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and 3 soldiers. Minutes later, there was a second suicide bomber that drove into the barracks of a French paratrooper detachment, killing 58 French soldiers and 6 innocent Lebanese civilians. That attack in Beirut is the single deadliest day for the U.S. Marine Corps since the Battle of Iwo Jima. The second event in October happened 40 years later, after the first event, just a year ago yesterday. That was October 7th, 2023, when there were terror attacks in Israel in which 1,200 people were brutally murdered and 251 were taken into Gaza as hostages by the Hamas terrorists. October 7th, a year ago yesterday, represents the deadliest terror incident in Israel's history, in which not only Israeli Jews, but also Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Israeli Arabs, and people from over 23 countries, including 45 Americans, were targeted and killed. And for Jews worldwide, October 7th, 2023, also marks the most significant loss of Jewish life in one day since the Holocaust. So these 2 days of tragedy, on October 23rd of 1983 and October 7th, 2023, share some similarities and differences. There are some obvious similarities. Both happened in October, both took place in the Middle East. Each event caused death and destruction to levels not seen anywhere in the world since World War II. Both attacks were perpetrated by militant terrorist organizations. One big difference between these events was their targets. The bombings in Beirut in 1983 were aimed at military personnel. None of those Marines or other soldiers deserved to die, but all of them had signed up for military duty and had been trained in combat. In Israel last year, civilians were the primary targets. Civilians were killed, raped, and tortured. The death toll included 695 Israeli civilians, including 36 young children. The youngest victim was a 9-month-old little girl named Mila Cohen, who was shot and killed while in the arms of her mother, Sandra. The terrorists targeted a music festival. They targeted families. They killed grandparents who were trying to save their grandchildren. Although separated by 40 years, there is a common thread that connects those 2 events. The connection is actually a single terrorist named Ibrahim Akil. The U.S. State Department identified Akil as one of the leaders of the Hezbollah bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983 that killed 241 U.S. military personnel. In fact, the State Department placed a bounty of $7 million on Akil. Ibrahim Akil is the same Hezbollah terrorist who initiated an ongoing bombing campaign from Lebanon against Israel on October 8th, 2023, in support of the Hamas terrorist attack the day before on October 7th. The same terrorist responsible for the murder of U.S. Marines in October 1983 was now attacking Israelis in support of the Hamas atrocities that were committed in October 2023. The link between these two events, 1983 and 2023, that link is now severed. Last month, on September 20th, 2024, the Israeli military located and targeted Akil in Beirut. He died in an Israeli airstrike. For the families of the U.S. Marines that were killed in the terrorist attack in Lebanon more than 40 years ago, the death of Akil has brought a belated measure of justice. For the Israeli military that targeted Akil, the action has elicited warnings from the United Nations to halt its military activity. As of today, right now, there are 101 people who are still being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. These hostages are either dead or alive, and they include 7 Americans. I hope and pray for their safe return. Thank you. And with that, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote, Liz.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
And I'm a, thank you.
We recognize that taking time to visit, call, or email our town departments to report issues in Hingham doesn't always fit your schedule. Are you looking for an easier way to communicate with the town? Well, now there's an easier way. With the My Hingham mobile app, you can submit service requests or gain information with just a few taps of your phone. To get started, simply download the My Hingham app from the Apple App Store or Google Play, or simply scan our QR code to get the access to the app that's best for your phone. Once you've opened the app, select the Submit a Service Request button. From there, you can choose the type of request you want to submit, whether it's a pothole, a fallen tree, or something else. You'll then be prompted to take a photo of the issue and provide a brief description. You can also use the app to track the status of your issue and receive updates. Using My Hingham puts immediate access to town resources in the palm of your hand, including calendars of meetings and events, agendas for upcoming meetings, building permit filing options, online bill payment options, information about our boards, committees, departments, and services. So why wait? Download the My Hingham app today and report issues and get information on town government with ease.